That's what
First of all, let me welcome you all here to our first ever meetup in Edinburgh, which is quite exciting from our point of view. And thank our host who's brought us all these nice things, which is really, really kind of you, and we appreciate it very much. Okay, I'm just going to give you a little bit of introduction. The format's going to be, I'll tell you a little bit of stuff. You can make up any kind of question you want. It doesn't even have to be about the blockchain. We'll try and answer it. And then we'll probably be about an hour doing that, and then if there's a little bit of time afterwards, we'll have some, just sort of moving together. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Temple Melville. I'm an investor in Scotcoin. Who all here has some Scotcoin? Can you just put your hands up if you have it? Okay, anyone who doesn't have it, if you come and see us, we'll give you all some later on. That's the first point. Second point is, this is Willie Fleming. Willie Fleming is director of the Scotcoin project, which is our educational arm. And this is Brian Mackay, who's helping us with security and all sorts of other things, and is the instrument for getting us into this rather exceptionally fine room.
Thank you, Brian.
Just one thing, there is in fact a loo through there if anybody needs it. And that's about all I've got to say about all that. So let me just give you a little bit of history about Scotcoin, because that's quite interesting. Scotcoin was started by a chap called Derek Nisbet before the IndieRef 1, let's call it that. And Derek was what I would describe as an entrepreneur, Scottish, and he wanted there to be a currency for Scotland. Now, the problem, of course, is that currency is not a devolved issue. That said, there is nothing to say that a digital currency could not be a devolved issue. One of the things that we're working on is, in fact, to give the IP for Scotcoin to the Scottish Government. Derek took the project, let's call it that, for about 18 months. But he basically, he's not a team player. I don't think he'd object to me saying that. And he basically went as far as he felt he could take it. And that's the point at which myself and my business partner, a chap called David Lowe, got involved, and we saw a huge potential for, not only for Scotcoin, but for digital currencies, cryptocurrencies, altcoins and all the rest of it, not only in Scotland but worldwide. And backing, of course, all these cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, I'm sure you know most of them, is the blockchain. I'm just going to ask, how many people before you got involved in this actually had heard of the blockchain? And how many had heard about Bitcoin? Practically everyone. Now you see, that's quite interesting. The one thing that everybody thinks of is that blockchain and Bitcoin are the same thing. They are not. The blockchain could exist quite happily without Bitcoin. There would be no issues with it. Bitcoin and alt currencies could not exist without the blockchain. The way I put it is that blockchain is an enabling technology. It enables the altcoins to exist. There's a lot of other stuff around that, but I think at that point, let's just start off with some questions from the floor. So you can ask us anything. As I say, we may not know the answer, but do ask. Who would like to start?
So how do you see it expanding from where it is now?
Do you mean cryptocurrency?
Yes, not European, Scotcoin.
Scotcoin.
Yeah,
Well, Scotcoin.
what would you like to see happening with it?
Well, Scotcoin is a slightly special case. Cryptocurrencies, of course, are worldwide. There is no border. But we, so that I can, in fact, give you that part, you can make the thing you make, and you can then potentially sell it somewhere else. But I don't have any money to buy this product from you. Therefore, we need to make believe in each other. We have to trust each other to pay, and we will have something that is effectively a token, which will betoken how many Swiss francs or whatever it is that you are owning. And they did this very successfully, and in fact, so much so that as the years progressed, the year became very much a secondary currency in Switzerland. And as of now, there are more than 70,000 businesses, never mind individuals, but more than 70,000 businesses in Switzerland that use Via and take Via. You don't have to pay everything in Via. You can pay, 70% in Swiss francs and 30% in Via or whatever.
It's a bit like a share of equity sort of thing.
It's, and the point is that they turn over about €500 million or €500 million Swiss francs a year. Now that's a significant sum of money, and it's a significant addition to the Swiss gross national product, which would not be there without that currency. So my vision for Scotcoin is that we would have that or something very similar in Scotland, which would enable small businesses in particular to trade better and do better in general, employ more people, do all the other things that's necessary. So that's kind of my vision for it.
How tied in to...
Sorry, you first.
That story you just told has happened hundreds and hundreds of times throughout history and all over the world. In recent years we've looked at exchange trading schemes, but in any time of war, people reinvent a local currency. So I'm thinking, what are the advantages of doing it in this modern technological way? And if it is successful, isn't it going to become regulated exactly like sterling?
I'm delighted you've said that, because that is precisely correct. There is no question whatsoever that the regulatory authorities, let's use that, will want there to be some kind of regulation on cryptocurrencies. I mean, you only need to think about they're not going to allow people to pass hundreds of millions of dollars X to Y without taxing it. And it's already beginning slightly, but it's going to become much more. In fact, one of the things that we are doing with Scotcoin, we are currently in what we call V2, which is version 2 of Scotcoin, which is on the counterparty protocol. We will be moving towards the end of this year into what we call V3, which is going to be on a private blockchain. You will be KYC, which is Know Your Customer, and AML, which is Anti-Money Laundering, certified. Now, in fact, that has already happened if you use an exchange. So it's fine for me to sell Brian something and him give me some Scotcoin or whatever. There's no problem because there's nothing else in between. But if you're buying and selling on an exchange, you have to be regulated. The exchanges take your information, take your email, take your address, they check your passport, all this rubbish. And that being the case, this is the way it is going. And it will come to the point where you're not going to be able to trade cryptocurrencies without being somewhere along the line registered. Having said that, there is no reason why people should be worried about that.
I think that's a principle worry.
Well, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. The reason I say that is that let's put it this way, the original thinking about Bitcoin was that it was for illegal trades, for drug money and all the rest of it. Now, whatever you think about that has to be a good thing to be got rid of, because cryptocurrencies are much more important than that. I would argue with you that in fact you are still going to be able to do trading backwards and forwards as you can between persons.
Well, my perception of the origin and creation of Bitcoin is quite simple, that it cuts out the middleman, banks, governments and all the rest of it, so we can get rid of that entire falsified tier that we've been slaving under for generations, and then take it to a perspective where everything is recorded, everyone can see everybody else's transaction, it's completely open and transparent and cannot be altered in any way.
Exactly.
So if you take out the banks and the regulations, it's all there for everybody to see.
Yeah.
So there is nothing to hide, to use that.
No, there isn't anything to hide, except where people want to do it. It's like gambling in America. It's people still gamble in America online and it's illegal. If you get caught,
But that's the
you'll do
government's
30
opinion.
years.
That's the government's
I accept that's a government thing, but that is the case. If you do it and you get caught, you'll do 30 years inside. You can still do it, because I'm going to stop you doing it. I'll just stop you doing it.
Me?
Or anyone. Sorry.
So you didn't quite follow on one of my points,
Yes.
which is, so what's the advantage? Is this in fact a political nationalist project?
No.
Because what you're doing is creating a separate currency from sterling, if it's national.
The Twitter feed makes it look pretty political.
Sorry?
Your Twitter feed makes it look pretty political.
Well, I think the short answer is that it has a lot of advantages for all sorts of reasons.
I mean, it's quite polarising, the Twitter feed.
Sorry?
I would suggest that the Twitter feed was quite polarising to a particular...
Well, we have to be realistic. We are called Scotcoin. We do want it to be used in Scotland, and at some point or other, I'm pretty certain that we will have to have people on board that are prepared to accept that. Now, it may well be that I don't know. I mean, it may well be that somebody comes along and says, "Okay, we actually don't want Scotcoin to be used in Scotland." Fine, that will be something else completely. But my own view is that it has a lot of advantages for use within this country.
Dependent on independence, or...
I don't think so. No. I think that's the point. It would, it's here now. We're not independent now.
It just seems that, again, I'm just basing this on the Twitter feed, which is very independence focused. I mean, every Twitter feed tweets is probably very
It's a guff in Twitter. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, but this is related to their Twitter feed for Scotcoin project, and it just seems that it's not.
Twitter feed put you off?
Well, it's. I think it's polarising. I mean, it's.
Well, that's an
I would contend that
interesting.
we are fairly polarised up.
It's just it seems like the way you're sort of pitching it on Twitter is it's intricately linked to potential independence, and I think that would put off a lot of people that might be interested in other ways.
I think the point is it's not the fact of Scotcoin is not linked to independence. We're proving it by it being available now. If in some future time Scotland is independent, then we would hope that Scotcoin would have a part to play in that. Sorry, yes.
I think the point is just because one of my questions was going to be tonight, like I want to be involved with Scotcoin, but not only if it is associated with independence, because like it to be independent of the independence debate, and I was wondering if that's something that you're going to push rather than it having this connection with independence, and which might, as some people say, put people off, but who might, and I think it's an opportunity to get involved in cryptocurrency in Scotland, but I
know what you're trying to say is yes.
I think it would be good to see it kind of independently of the independence debate.
Yes, I think the short answer to that is that there is a. What you're really saying is that you would prefer if Scotcoin was not politicised.
Yeah.
We don't feel Scotcoin, and I accept what you say about the Twitter feed. We are looking for people to support us. There is no doubt at all that there is a groundswell of opinion in Scotland which is for independence, and they perhaps perceive Scotcoin as being something that they can link into. But we are not a political organisation. We are purely and simply, I would almost say we're in this for the money, but that's not strictly true. We're in this for...
to get around the money.
Well, if you like. Yeah. The point is that cryptocurrencies are here to stay. They're not going anywhere. There is every reason why Scotland should have its own cryptocurrency. There's a lot of advantages. There are other countries who've tried to do cryptocurrencies. Iceland and Ireland are two. Both of them did them really badly, and as a result they've gone nowhere. So what we're trying to do is to do it well, so that they go somewhere and they become useful and helpful to people. That's well.
Sorry, the only thing is I came into this a while back, and I seem to recall talking to the chap
Here in this bit.
and we were heading towards trying to get an independence vote, and we were getting told we can't use the English pound. This was an alternative in his mind. If we didn't have any alternatives, this would be a cryptocurrency that could be used.
That's true.
And the thing that the path we're going down really doesn't really count as far as I'm concerned, because we've got the Bristol pound, and that doesn't mean Bristol's going independent. We've got the Scottish note, and it's here. It was here back before 1850 when England took us over. So we've always had these things, but It doesn't mean we're independent.
No, I think that's right. I mean, there is no requirement for Scotcoin. Sorry, there's no requirement for Scotland to be independent for Scotcoin to flourish.
Exactly.
The real, as I go back to what I was saying, my vision was that we would have a boost for small businesses. We would have a boost for all sorts of things, charities, lots of things in Scotland, by using a cryptocurrency, and that's still stick with that. Sorry.
I know, Doctor. And what I was thinking from what I've heard so far, is it not a case of what you're talking about is a sort of a social credit union and a national credit union, and it happens to be electronic? And you put your coins into
if people were putting money into it,
yeah,
then that would perhaps be the case.
I mean, putting money into or getting money out, so
Yes.
it would be that sort of thing. It would be.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the areas we're looking at the moment is, we were talking about this earlier on, that if you, a bit like a Tesco club card, if you buy a widget, you get so many Scotcoin, and when you've built up a certain number of Scotcoin, you get a free widget. That is something we would certainly love to do with lots of people. We'd love to do it with Domino Pizzas. Funnily enough, we actually have somebody who runs some Domino Pizza franchises up in the north of Scotland, and he wants to do exactly that. So that'll be quite interesting to see whether that happens. Sorry, yes.
Why are we going down this road of creating a separate, unique Scottish cryptocurrency? Does it not make more sense from a liquidity point of view, from a transactional point of view, from global trade, to piggyback on or develop further the more global international cryptocurrency that's out there? Why do you kind of angle it from a Scottish perspective?
Okay, well let me go back a little bit to the history. It was created before we were involved, and therefore, from our point of view, we have simply taken what we had and are working with it. Now, I suppose in a way the answer is that it looked, and perhaps it still looks, that Bitcoin is going to be the world cryptocurrency. I mean, in a way, what I always say is, the world reserve currency is the dollar. In the same way, for cryptocurrencies, the world's reserve currency is, in fact, Bitcoin. But there's nothing to prevent, I mean, we're talking about the Bristol plan and so on, there's nothing to prevent us having our own cryptocurrency. It makes sense for us to have it in the same way that the beer people have that just in Switzerland. But we can use Scotcoin to trade. We have people, in fact, in South America who own Scotcoin. We have people in Vietnam. We have people in China. In fact, I was adding that the other day. We have people who are using Scotcoin or are taking Scotcoin in over 45 countries in the world. So we're not saying it's just for here. We are saying it's available for use anywhere, and it is available for use anywhere.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just curious why you're almost like trying to reinvent the wheel when already there is a established, fully tradable, transparent, increasingly regulated cryptocurrency out there, and you're almost like creating more friction in the system by creating your own unique Scottish concept of that. I'm just curious to know.
I don't think there's any more friction being created. I wouldn't have said that. But I mean, there are there's over nearly 800 now cryptocurrencies actually out there, all with different characteristics. Or not all with different characteristics, but some with different characteristics.
Are they all creating friction?
Sorry?
Are they all creating friction? Are they holding us back? Every one of these 800 currencies.
The distinction is fixed or floating. If it's a fixed exchange rate with other currencies, then there ain't no friction. If it's a floating currency, then by definition there is friction in exchange.
Yeah, but the point is that in foreign currency, in FX, foreign currency exchange, everything is floating. It's exactly the same in the cryptocurrency world. They're all floating against each other and against.
I mean, there are plenty of currencies around the world
Yeah.
that follow the dollar. West African francophone
Yeah.
countries follow the franc, and others follow the dollar, and so on.
Yeah.
But the point of local exchange trading schemes, I was heavily involved in one in Edinburgh 20 years, which petered out, I think. is to establish a boundary around the usage of the currency to encourage local economies, whatever local is defined as, so that the people spending and using that currency have a greater degree of knowledge of where it is going to and where it is circulating. So instead of at Tesco spending your sterling and that flies off to the currency exchange in New York and the profits go to shareholders all over the world, you have some knowledge of where it's going. That works on a local level with many of the local currencies. If it's as large as Scotland and available around the world, you're just inventing another currency.
But what are you going to do? Are you going to stop people from using it elsewhere? Are you going to say you have to only use it in Scotland?
Can I
That's
say
theoretically possible.
Sorry, that's what you seem to be describing, what Kevin's describing are two different things. You seem to be describing a situation where you're pre-existing established currencies, local currencies.
Yes.
What he's describing seems to me is the beginning of things, again, where you have whole new systems of currency, things that we might not even know. You were talking about Ethereum a minute ago. Types of currency that we might not even have conceived of, that are linked to a whole load of different platforms. And you seem to be describing a model that says this won't work because X, Y, Z, when in fact you're trying to apply that model to an environment where the currencies are actually in flux and it's a development.
Let's try to drill down to what is the advantage, because that's why I put in the caveat, whatever you define local as, whether that's geographical or community of interest or whatever. But lots of the concepts that are being described have been reinvented many, many times. I'm trying to find out what's the advantage, what's the difference, other than
Are these physical currencies you talk about locally that you've been dealing with?
Yeah.
Are not cryptocurrencies?
Yeah.
So that for me would be the dividing line. It's like you're moving between a physical world, the old world, and the new world, where everything is basically back to the beginning again, and it's what fights with each other, what wins, what comes to the surface, what sinks. So to try and shoot it down in the terms of the old world, I don't know. It doesn't really work.
I'm not shooting the whole idea then. I'm saying many of the things I'm hearing said echo what's gone before.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
So there's a large part of what we're talking about which is old. The concepts.
But surely Bitcoin is old, because all it is a store of value. It's not a currency. It's not just a store of value. I want to exchange it with someone else, done. That's all it is. That's as old as the hills. Into the market, barter. That's all it is.
Yeah, there's always going to be a need for an intermediary coin, let's use that expression. If you've got 2 goats and you've got 3 loaves of bread and you want somehow or other to do a deal with them, you need some kind of something to make it work. But I think, just going back to the thing about old and so on, I think the real point about what we've been talking about is purely the coin at the moment. I think one of the things we should mention is the thing about the blockchain. The blockchain is the unique factor behind all this. And can I say the reason for the invention of the blockchain is probably putting it a bit strongly, but the whole point about the blockchain is if you want to replicate something digitally, it's very simple. You can just press a button, click paste, blah, 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 and it's done. Now, the point is that's fine with music, it's fine with videos, it's fine with whatever you want to do, books, whatever. But it's not fine with money or with value. So therefore you have to have some method of making sure that when you create a coin or a piece of money or whatever you want to call it, that that is unique. And that is what the blockchain actually does. It actually makes sure that every single Bitcoin that is created is unique. One thing I didn't say earlier on is that there is no such thing as a Bitcoin. I said it to you earlier. There is no such thing as a Bitcoin. All you actually have is a series of transactions which delineate the fact that there is a Bitcoin of value somewhere. You can't open a wallet and see a Bitcoin. You can't have a Bitcoin in your pocket. Now that is a very, very critical and crucial new concept, that you cannot do something twice and you keep it unique. And that is very, very important. There's a lot of other applications as well. We talked about Ethereum, or I heard somebody talking about Ethereum, smart contracts and so on. There's all sorts of different aspects of it. You can have what they call DAOs, which are digitally autonomous organizations, which would be like, for example, if you wanted to have a taxi take you a driverless taxi take you from Edinburgh to Glasgow. The taxi would work out that it had enough range in its power, its tyres were okay, it had enough oil in it, it had whatever you wanted, knew where it was going, and it would quote you the price when you went. And it would do it all itself through the blockchain because it couldn't be altered. That's really the critical bit. Part of the, if people, some people here didn't know about blockchain. Let me do a very simple little example here. Here's a block, and here's another block.
Can I stop you just there for
Yeah.
a second? Does anybody else want pizza? Because there's pizza up here if nobody needs to. Does everybody up there? Everybody getting enough pizza? H is getting cold. Sorry, carry on.
So here we have a series of blocks. Each of these blocks is a chunk of data, a defined chunk of data. Into the first block, let's just work this on the side. All the data for a series of transactions is inputted. Now the real point is once that data is there, you could replicate it. But through a lot of very clever cryptography and one thing or another, what they do is they actually make it like a one-way trapdoor. So in other words, you can input it, but you can't get it out unless it's altered. And if it's altered, it's not the same, and therefore it's not valid. The people who work all this stuff are called miners. They're not actually miners, they're actually computers, but they're called miners for ease of use. And what they do is they create something that's called a hash. And a hash is basically a little tiny bit of information that is unique. It can't be changed, it can't be altered, it can't have anything wrong to it. The way I explain it, to make it simple, is supposing you've got a flower bed. You've got nothing in the flower bed. You want to have something in the flower bed. The only way you can do that is you take some seeds and you put them in the flower bed. And exactly the same thing, in a sense, happens within the blockchain. You have all the data in here, which is then cryptographically encoded, and it produces one little tiny seed, effectively. The little seed comes along and it goes into this one. That's the starting point. But everything that's in there can't be changed. It's immutable. It's a one-way traffic ticket. Therefore, the same thing then happens again. The data comes in and it creates a new hash that comes into here and moves from there to there. So it's building up all the time. The important point about this is that all the data in all these little blocks goes to all the nodes, which is the computers and miners, all the time, all over the world. So everywhere has exactly the same amount of information, exactly the same information. And what that means is that you can't have somebody saying, hang about, I'm going to change a bit of that, because you can't do it. It's already done. Sorry.
What's the latency on
I just can't hear you,
that?
sorry.
What's the latency on that? You say it's 10 minutes.
Right, but one of these blocks is about every 10 minutes. So within 10 minutes the block is complete, and you therefore move on. Sorry.
That's on the Bitcoin blockchain. There could be many blockchains.
There's lots of different blockchains, but
But-
this is we're talking about.
When people say the blockchain, they're generally referring to the blockchain which Bitcoin runs on, and that was designed to have approximately a 10-minute cycle time. Other coins have different cycle times. Litecoin, for instance, was designed to have a much shorter cycle time. There are various improvements going on which will, in general, make cycle times quicker. But for Bitcoin, it's going to be about 10 minutes each time.
Sorry, you would, yeah.
Yeah, so you talked about version 3 and creating your own blockchain. I was wondering how that was going and how are you achieving that technically?
About how the V3 blockchain is going. Basically speaking, there are two answers to that. The first is we could use Hyperledger. The second one is we could use multi-chain. We have in fact got a multi-chain system operational.
Yeah, we have implementations running at the moment on multi-chain. We will shortly have a trial implementation running on Hyperledger, and we are just looking at everything very, very carefully to decide which of these two systems we're going to plump for, because as I'm sure you can understand, this is not a decision that you can get wrong. This is not a decision that I can suddenly decide, okay, 3 weeks down the line, that was a bad idea, let's roll it back. We have to be right about this, we have to be right about this first time. Therefore, we're not going to rush into it. And to the same extent, we're not going to say too much about it until we're pretty sure ourselves. It would be bad to get it wrong, and we're not going to do that, and we don't particularly want too much outside influence, if that doesn't sound too arrogant, about what we plump for. Because it's going to be a big decision, and it's a decision that hopefully we will not be changing again. And I want to see this currency succeed, and I want to make the right decision for it, that suits for a long time. So I'd love to tell you more, but I can't.
Related to this question, I just wonder, where are you planning to run this chain? Are you planning to run on nodes in Scotland, or are you planning to run it all over the world?
Is it going to be run in Scotland or all over the world?
Primarily, we expect it will be run from Scotland, but I don't see why it shouldn't be possible to run nodes from anywhere in the world. But it will be a permission blockchain, and you're going to have to basically pass some basic tests before you'll be allowed to participate in it. And there will be all sorts of people who will say, no, we don't want the data or any part of it offshored. That is a moot point, because any data that will be on it will be well encrypted anyway, and there will be fragments of the data that will only ever exist on one machine. But we can see the point, and from a PR point of view, it may well be that we take a decision that it is only nodes that are based in Scotland that would be mining it. Again, these are points to be decided. You know, the finer points of this has to be decided later. My own feeling is that it should be available across the world to anybody who wants to do it, but that may change.
So, sorry, would it be centralised, or would it be decentralised?
It'll be decentralised, but it will be permissioned, right? You're going to have to basically prove who you are and what you are to participate in the network. But once you're in it, it's decentralised, right? So we want the maximum number of nodes possible, because in any blockchain, the veracity, the power of a blockchain depends on the number of nodes that are actually contributing to the validation. You could call them miners. I don't particularly like the term miners, but hey, we're stuck with it. But we need a large and wide variety of miners from as many places as possible.
It does, however, sound a little bit centralised by having to get permission.
Sorry?
It does sound a little bit centralised by having to get permission. So that's the thing that I can't...
Any blockchain that is permissioned is arguably centralised. That's just part of how it is. I want it to be as decentralised as possible, as practical. But there's practical and there's what, as I refer to it, as the Stallman-esque free software guys go on about, and there's these wonderful, wonderful ideas, which unfortunately most of them are totally impractical.
Yes. Sorry.
No questions are stupid, I understand from what you said in the invitation, so I have two. First of all, you mentioned the creation of the currency and the fact it will be decentralized. Would that mean we will be looking at creation for the purpose of creation of the currency, or will it be for the purpose of circulation of the currency? So will it be actually seeing that currency in use? And if the second is the case, then what sort of controls do you envisage would be implemented in order to prevent that form of currency being used for illicit purposes? Because we know a lot of financial institutions struggle with the fact that Bitcoin is, or this cryptocurrency, and it is being more and more used
Okay, well, there's two questions there. The
Yeah.
first one basically is, can it be used as a currency, i.e. can you buy pizza with it? Short answer is yes, you will be able to. Going on to the point about illicit purposes, you can never stop anyone doing something illicit with anything. You know, bank accounts, cash in your pocket, you can always do something illicit. What we would hope is that we would be able to find out when such things happen, and then we can, because of the nature of the blockchain and so on, we can then bar these participants from using it in that way. This is the whole point about being KYC registered. So the short answer is, A, yes, you can use it as a currency and a store of value, which is what the blockchain really is, and B, we will hopefully be able to weed out the people who are creating property. Sorry, there was something you answered.
You said that one of the purposes is to grow the economy by offering benefits. So what are the benefits, and what specifically makes Scotcoin more beneficial than another cryptocurrency?
Right, well, one of the ways we want to do that is, as was mentioned earlier, by cutting out the banks, making transfers faster and cheaper. I went to get some printing done a couple of months back, actually for leaflets to advertise a Meetup. The printer said to me he'd just had to order a spare part from China. The part itself cost £4,000. The bank charges to get that £4,000 to China cost him the best part of £600, and it took 3 weeks to get that done. Right? Had that been done in Bitcoin, it would have cost me Bitcoin or Scotcoin or a cryptocurrency. It could have been done within the hour for a few pence. Right? But somewhere in the middle, we've got this useless set of bureaucrats, bankers, whatever, sitting in the middle, skimming off our money as it goes back and forwards. They themselves do not add too much value to the economy. What we are trying to do is basically make those who do add value to the country, those who add value to our economy, make it simpler and easier and faster for them to transact. And that, in a nutshell, is how we want to make our businesses better, because it's the small businesses that count. Small businesses create 80% of the gross domestic product of this country. That is organisations with under 200 employees. It's not the big boys, it's not Shell, it's not Viva Insurance, it's not them that really make the difference in this. It's small businesses that are really the backbone of this country, and they're the ones who really need to be supported.
How is Scotcoin offering a benefit over Bitcoin? What's
we hope so.
beneficial?
We hope so.
We hope so.
No, but how? Why?
That part of V3, which we can't really talk too much about at the moment.
Okay.
But
There are other things
Can
coming on.
I actually, just going on from what Willie's saying about transferring money, as you know, the Filipinos work all over the world and they're always sending money back to their own country. And they obviously do it through banks, they do it through MoneyGram, they do it through Western Union, you know, there's other people that do it. And the Philippines government is actually thinking about setting up places in the Philippines that will receive Bitcoin in particular, because if they cut out all the costs that the Filipinos incur sending that money, they will add £1 billion a year to their own economy. Now that's a very significant sum of money for somewhere like the Philippines with a lot of very poor people in it. And that's the kind of thing that you can achieve with cryptocurrencies. Sorry. Yeah.
How are you planning to prevent the kind of turbulence in value? If you obviously Bitcoin has seen a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
So how are you planning to stabilise?
Well, the first point I would make is that the ups and downs of Bitcoin have not had a deleterious effect on its use as a currency. That's the first point. The second point is we believe that, again, once we have V3 in place, we will have a very much more stable ecosystem. So that's two bits of the answer.
The basic answer is that greater adoption means greater liquidity, and price volatility is almost always directly related to a lack of liquidity, and a small number of large transactions can make a major change to the value of any altcoin right now, and for that matter Bitcoin. Bitcoin's got there's some structural things happening with Bitcoin at the moment. It's getting a huge amount of acceptance, a huge amount of push, a huge amount of hype behind it. That has pushed the price an awful lot higher. In any of these kind of financial, in these worlds, when a price gets pushed higher, then quite often it's followed by a correction, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. Bitcoin went to $3,000. It's now slipped back to about $2,500, or just under £2,000 if you want to talk UK money. That price will fluctuate a bit, but the fact is it will continue to ratchet up. It will go up, it will fall back, but it will never fall back as far as it's fallen before. It'll go up again, it will fall back a bit. But as we get older, as it matures, how can I put it? The saw teeth on the way up get smaller, and the graph will flatten out. Unfortunately, volatility is not going to happen until we get much more liquidity, and that just basically means getting more people out and using it.
I think what is happening just now with Bitcoin and the ups and the downs, buy when they cry, sell when they yell. I think that what that's doing at the moment is that's essentially building its own tolerances and its own, what's the word I'm looking for? Not stability, but it's essentially you're getting all of the crashes and the rises and the crashes now.
But what it's also
and that's building its tolerance.
Yeah, but it's also bringing more people in.
Yeah, of course, because everybody wants to see
that
the stupid demands.
There are extra million people in the last 2 months that have Bitcoin wallets.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Which is what you want.
Yeah, of course, and obviously that then drives the adoption of whatever coin.
So much of the price volatility, the price action over the past few months in the whole cryptocurrency scene is traders simply trading it for the sake of trading it, because it's like foreign exchange.
Yeah.
They don't care if it's New Zealand dollars or zloty or whatever, if there's a profit in it, they'll take it, and a lot of people are doing that, right? But at the same time, not at the same time, but as we go on with greater adoption, the percentage of trade that is done that is simply trading the currency rather than actually trading goods for it will fall. And as that falls, again, it will tend to reach its own natural level. It's all very new. I mean, let's face it, Bitcoin itself is barely 10 years old, if that. It's not even 10 years old yet.
You're saying some very dangerous things there.
I'm sorry,
I think you're saying some very dangerous things. You just told me how to become a billionaire. Right? Invest in, whatever cryptocurrency. It will inevitably go up. Wrong. You don't know that.
No, I don't know that, but I can be fairly certain that this time next year, the price of Bitcoin will be higher than it is this year. Afterwards,
currencies crash, even the dollar crashes. The problem here is lack of control. As these things become more popular, they become more risky and dangerous to individuals and the economy. And with these cryptocurrencies, no one has any control.
They're self-controlling.
But then that's going to be a
if they have total record, there's a total absence of in the exchange system. It's all just, whichever way you want to funnel the money, and goodness knows what can happen when it goes through these means. This doesn't have any of that. You cut all of that out. It goes to the side. You've got your standard amount set amount, which is given by whoever creates the coin. So that's the inherent value that people trade on. Whether it's traded on or not is not the question. Do you see where I'm coming from?
But by the criteria which you just stated, all currencies are self-controlling or correcting.
But the
problem
blockchain
is
is the
volatility.
security and record of all
That doesn't
transactions.
stop volatility or create stability.
Yeah.
If you go through the exchange, you go through the exchange system and use the financial regulations and all these systems, that's corruption. This essentially has cut that out in its inset by its creation of the blockchain.
My third point was 9 out of every $10 traded every day, and pounds and so on, are speculative futures trading.
Yeah.
How will you stop that? There are some very big issues here in the way currencies work,
Well,
which is sort of glossing over.
you've come into something slightly different there, because what you're talking about is about the futures markets. Now, in fact, you could, I suspect, I don't know how you would do it, but you could write a futures contract for Bitcoin. Because what you could say is, okay, I will buy from you X amount of Bitcoin at such and such a price in 3 months' time.
But it's being done.
It is being done, correct. But it's not a proper futures contract, because it's not being done through a clearinghouse. It's being done between you and me, basically. And that's slightly different. I would go with you over there and say that, in fact, everything you care to mention is volatile in its own trading. The fact is that what flattens it and deadens it is adoption and using more and more and more. That's what the difference is. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
I was going to suggest the purpose of regulations and regulatory bodies and organisations such as London Stock Exchange have procedures in place to prevent over volatility. Or I don't know what the right word is there. You know, if there's a flash crash or something, you stop trading.
Yeah, and we saw that happening 2 or 3 days ago.
Exactly. So what's in place? And there's nothing in place on Bitcoin at the moment to stop that, and therefore it's much more open to, I would say, abuse from automated trading and the like. And people know this. You know, the question I asked about how to prevent volatility, what I was trying to get at to that is, how do you drive mass adoption? Because people aren't going to adopt something that is so volatile.
Well, there's currently now 17 million people, or roughly 17 million people using Bitcoin, or have wallets for Bitcoin, put it that way. So I don't think that they're worrying too much about that. But sorry, go on, say again.
I was going to say a billion people have an Instagram account, but hardly anyone actually the usage.
I know, but personally I wouldn't bother with Instagram myself. Sorry.
Can I ask, just touching on the point on volatility, is Scotcoin backed by anything? Is it backed by any
cryptocurrency is backed by
Sorry. So it's basically, so in that context, it's pretty similar to paper currency.
Of course it is. Backed by nothing.
It's an electronic form.
Yeah,
So therefore,
all currencies are.
yeah. So therefore, in terms of volatility, irrespective of the liquidity or lack of, I'd be shocked if we don't have volatility.
There's always going to be volatility. We've never suggested that there will not be volatility. We've never suggested.
I'm just following up the gentleman's point behind me regarding the fact these things go up, these things go down, and they go down sharply as well.
Well, the price of sheep goes up, the price of sheep goes down. Everything goes up and down.
Yeah, you're talking about allegedly a global currency or centre currency for Scotland. You need just to bear that point.
Well, I come back to what I said. This is one of the issues that will be addressing with B3. Sorry, the lady at the back.
Sorry, I'll go back to the element of control, but from the KYC perspective, because this is also very interesting. You were saying that you are planning to, if I understood right, implement some sort of questions for people who would be willing to join the blockchain, if I understood it right, in order to vet them.
Okay.
I would like to understand how similar this would be to the processes currently applied by the financial institutions, and in case of discovering that an individual or an entity is unwelcome in that community, what steps would be undertaken? Because currently, as you might be perfectly aware, financial institutions, when they discover individuals or entities who abuse the system, call them drug traffickers, call them money launderers, whatever, you name it, they basically inform the police or other law enforcement agencies that this is this is a use of the system, what this currency would have in place, what partnerships, what collaboration does it entail, does it think of developing in order to prevent that from happening?
Okay, the first bit of the question was, how do you get regulated to go onto the blockchain? The short answer is there are already, in fact, places, companies that check the fact that you are who you say you are, and that you are a genuine person, that you live at this address and so on. So we would be looking to the fact that you are a real person, you're not Pablo Escobar in a different name, and so on. Now once you are then allowed to trade, allowed to hold whichever coin it might be, not only Scotcoin, but I believe all of them will be eventually, then the way that you can be stopped is much easier than in fact with ordinary money and so on, because you can simply put a little bit of code in which says if this person with this wallet address or number or whatever it is turns up, they are not to be allowed to have this. And it's a very simple system, just stop them doing it.
And then?
That's it.
So if you discover a potential human trafficker who has been using Bitcoin as it has been done in the United States, using Backpage,
we would certainly report anyone who was doing anything illegal like that, definitely.
Can I just say, and one thing as well, and when they catch these money launderers and drug dealers like HSBC, just smack them on the wrist and say, no, don't do it again. So don't worry about anybody else in the blockchain, worry about your big banks, because they're all money launderers and drug dealers and they're getting away with it. But here's $1 billion fine. Now don't do it again.
Then they get given a medal.
So you said earlier on that you were willing to pass out some Scotcoin to people at the end or whatever.
Yes.
What's to stop me getting that Scotcoin, passing it over to that lady over there, and then her using it for an illicit purpose?
At the moment, absolutely nothing.
Well, you're going to have to find somebody who will accept Scotcoin for it. And no matter how I tried last weekend, I could not get half a quarter for Scotcoin.
Did you get a price release?
But I didn't like it with your offer, thank you.
No, this is the point. At the moment, the answer is no. And the same with Bitcoin and anything else. If you go through an exchange, as I said earlier on, you have to be regulated on the exchange. But the real point is, once we become to V3, you will be qualified in inverted commas to be using that V3 coin.
I'd like to know how we do that. That's the big question.
So do we.
What, how we qualify people?
Yeah. Well, how do you regulate it, basically?
Well, put it this way,
It's going to take more than the talent available that we have at the moment.
Yes.
Right?
But the lady over there was asking, was it the same as in financial institutions? And basically, yes. You're going to have to prove who you are. You're going to have to prove who you are.
So, is this gentleman here? Sorry, were you?
It was just a general comment. It was one of the things you were talking about. I think it's important to bear in mind that this isn't a cliff edge thing, in my view. It's like everybody's going to keep using pounds and pence and so on, and everybody's going to get their pensions and that, and their wages and that. It's a gradual taking over type thing.
It's in addition to.
In addition to, yeah. I mean, I believe that in Germany in particular, they're focusing quite a lot on what they're referring to as Industrial Revolution 4.0, and these are precisely the things that they are really focusing on, is, digital technologies and how you pay, and what's the fluidity in these systems. So it's not going to be, in my view, it's not going to be a cliff edge thing. So I don't think a lot of these worries about what if and fluctuations and all that.
Well, it's like everything else. Things will change as time goes on. But you're saying about Germany. For example, Audi is busily spending billions on blockchain technology, both for its vehicles and for other digital usage, which is quite interesting. Sorry, you had your hand up again.
Yeah, I'm asking a lot of questions just to show how ignorant I am.
We'd rather people ask lots of questions than no questions. Yeah. Please carry on.
I have a very, very, very rudimentary understanding of blockchain and Bitcoin and the like. So what I'm kind of interested at the moment is, what's the difference between the process of joining to use this blockchain and be a store of value versus a currency, and that whatever it is, versus the process of joining to help create that currency/value? Because I understand that you can mine for these things using that process of power, and with Bitcoin that's a collaborative effort. You know, I could buy a bunch of servers and start mining tomorrow if I wanted to. I couldn't because I don't know how, but you know, so what's the difference there between creating the value and using the value?
Okay, the first point is, what's the difference between creating and using? The point of that Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is being created every 10 minutes. At the moment, if you complete one of these blocks, you get 6.5 Bitcoin for your efforts.
And that's
I can't know.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. It's $25,000 plus.
Yeah, every 10 minutes.
Every 10 minutes. Lots of people trying to do it, obviously. But that's the creation side of it. But that doesn't prevent the existing stock of Bitcoin being used for a store of value or as used to buy something. They're not mutually exclusive. But for example, Scotcoin has what's called pre-mined. So all the Scotcoin that will be, as we speak, in V2 is 1 billion. Now, that's what there is. Full stop.
Is that just because this is a test currency and you've artificially limited it to that point as a playground? Or is it your intention to only ever have this much currency in play ever?
When are these?
And if that's the case, how do you distribute it to people to use?
Well, we're offering to give some free here tonight, for example. You can buy some on the exchange as well, you know, it's not difficult.
Exchange.scotcoin, The Scotcoin as it exists at the moment is, in technical terms, a counterparty protocol, which means it's a token which is traded, it's piggybacked on top of the Bitcoin protocol, right? So when you do a transaction in Scotcoin at the moment in V2, what you're actually doing is you're sending a very, very small amount of Bitcoin from one place to another, and in the comments field, for want of a better word, of that transaction, there is the real transaction, which says send 2,500 Scotcoin from me to that gentleman over there, right? Now, this is, the counterparty protocol was invented to assist in making other tokens that were lighter, that were better, that were easier to use than Bitcoin, right? So you don't mine Scotcoin itself. You don't mine any of the counterparty protocols. What you do is when you make a transaction, you actually pay a little amount of Bitcoin to the Bitcoin ecosystem. And that, in the long run, ends up in the hands of the miners who are making the new coins, right?
They're confirming the transaction.
Yes, the validators. They're being paid for their time, for their effort, right? Now that's how it is with counterparty. That's how it is with Scotcoin V2 at the moment. That was fine when Bitcoin was $200–300 a time, because that small amount of Bitcoin you had to pay was a couple of pence, right? Now that the price of Bitcoin is going up substantially, that price becomes bigger and it becomes somewhat more of a problem. And that's one of the reasons that we have decided that we're going to move to V3, and that there will be mining for the new Scotcoin, exactly how to be decided, but that's where it's going to be. Soon you will be able to in fact mine for Scotcoin, but we will have a large amount of pre-mine, and we will know within certain limits what we've got, exactly how many there are, exactly how many there will be, and the rate at what that and how that will happen, and to be able to change that rate if necessary, as and when economic circumstances permit. Because it would be a very, very bad idea to tie us into any one particular rate at this time, because economies change. You know, just ask any chancellor.
So you're taking on functions of a central bank?
So?
So you're taking on the function of a central bank?
No, they'll still be decentralised.
Still be decentralised.
If you're controlling the volume of currency in the market,
No,
that's
we're
what
not.
central banks do.
No, we're not controlling the volume.
We're not controlling the volume. We may decide that, or when I say we, those who will have vote in moving it, because it will be more than just the team at Scotcoin that will be producing this. I mean, there would probably have to be something like a referendum amongst all Scotcoin users to change something like that. But it may well make sense that it needs to be changed and proposal will come out. And the proposal will either stand or fall. Somebody will come up with another proposal next time. But the mechanism to change must be put there. But no, we the public Scotcoin team, have got no intention whatsoever of acting as a central bank.
So would the miners have their voting rights?
The miners will have a voting right, but we intend to make it such that mining will be easy for everybody, because at the moment, to join in this mining scheme for Bitcoin, you need to have a lot of money to buy the expensive specialised hardware that's there, and the ability to pay some very, very big electric bills. And that's why most of the mining now happens in China, where they can get cheap electricity.
Or in cold countries.
Or, yeah, again, in cold countries where they don't have to pay for the cooling, you know. There are various schemes at the moment that will allow mining to be done on a much fairer, less specialised method, and that's, again, these are some of the things that we're looking at. There are many, many aspects that we have to look at before we decide exactly how V3 is going to be done. I mean, to put it in context, at the moment, at the present rate of usage of Bitcoin, right, the Bitcoin blockchain takes the same amount of energy to run every week as it takes to run Cambodia, right? Now, Cambodia is a third world country, but it's a long way from being, you know, the lowest of third world countries. It's in some places it's pretty developed. So they use one large amount of electricity in Cambodia, but that same amount of power is being used at the moment just to make sure that people that we can provably say that the transactions that went into that block are true, verifiable, and everybody involved can trust the people who put it in to make it go into the next block, to make it go into the next block. Because the reason for all this usage of power, the proof of work, as it is to make sure that nobody is cheating. Right? Because it would be dead easy to do cryptocurrency if everybody was honest. I didn't think, well, I can fiddle this by just moving the slip. Can't do that. And that's why proof of work is so incredibly power hungry, and that it is unlikely, highly unlikely, that when we decide on a scheme for Scotcoin it's going to involve proof of work, certainly not in that way it's been done.
Wouldn't you say that that's the reason why it can never be centralised in the sense that
I'm sorry, I'm very deaf. Say again.
Sorry, wouldn't you say that that's the reason why a cryptocurrency can never be centralised in the sense that a central bank is central? Because the proof of work is done by many, many people, and that alone means there's not one central bank who has the ability to print money or do quantitative easing or whatever it is they do.
Okay, I'll do you a little diagram. If this is,
he loves his diagrams.
If this is the central point, okay, you have the bank doing the stuff like this all over the place. Now this is one place point of failure, one place with all information. Decentralized is when you have lots of different people, like we do have in Bitcoin, and they're going all over the place, all connecting. It's like the internet. They're all connecting to different bits, so that in other words, there isn't one single place that can fail. There isn't one single place that has all the information, because all the information is all the time.
What's to stop the net checking, network issues, the network being split, and things happening and kind of starting to become desynchronized between different areas of the network? if there's particularly like a particular node that is down, or there's a long kind of network delay causes issues, and therefore kind of I don't know the right terminology, but different blockchain segments emerge, or if you get two different areas creating the same block at the same point. Is that the right terminology?
I know what you're trying to say, but it doesn't quite work like that. The first point is that the way the internet works is it is decentralized. It has now millions and millions and millions of paths to get from A to B. And you can knock out 4 million of them, and there's still 3 million that can do it. A different way, a bit longer way, whatever it is. The point is, with the blockchain, every piece of information is sent to every single person who's on that chain all the time.
So it can't happen instantaneously.
Say again, sir?
That can't happen instantaneously.
Well, it happens as instantaneously as the internet works.
But there must be gigabytes of information that every single node needs to be terabytes.
Yes, there's lots and lots of information. But the point is, it all arrives at the same time in the same place, effectively. Now, what I would say to you is, it's the same effect you were saying about the bit getting knocked out or it being slower or whatever it is. It's the same effect as we had in World War II with the British railway system. Now, everybody was always complaining about there's all these funny little railways going all over the place and everywhere, and it's just the way it was built in Victorian era times. But the point was, when a bit got knocked out by the German bombs in the good old days, it didn't matter because they just diverted it around another way. Now, that's exactly what happens with the internet. So if one bit goes down, if something goes out or whatever, it goes a different way. Sorry.
Perhaps when you say immediately, we are talking about every 10 minutes for the block time. Immediately to a normal person, immediately to a network engineer, there's two different immediatelys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. Carry on, sir.
That's a double spend problem. And what happens is, I think, as I understand, the nodes basically take the longest chain. So if you have several chains, because someone's popped off, the nodes just gravitationally decide. You always take the latest chain because the way blockchain works, that's the most accurate. And then the other chain basically disappear into the ether, and all those transactions have to be re-added to the blockchain. Am I correct?
Wait, so
roughly.
Yeah. that forked blockchain kind of gets it gets reinserted into the database. But how does that tie with the blockchain being inviolate and unchangeable?
Well, it's unchangeable. It's unchangeable once the block is made.
Okay.
I mean, just in the simplest of terms, it means that nothing can be changed once the block is completed.
Okay.
Because there's all these people who do not trust each other trying to earn the dollars that they're going to get, or the Bitcoin they're going to get by creating more blocks. And therefore, there's the computing power and all the rest of it goes through. Just going back a little bit about the history of how the blockchain theory began, I'm sure you've all heard of Satoshi Nakamoto, who is Nakamoto, who's perhaps nobody who knows, with no idea. But the real point is that he promoted this idea of creating a thing to get rid of the double spend problem. And part of that was to say that and because I'm very old, I've just forgotten where I was going with that. But the point is, what he said was that you cannot have... Sorry, I've gone.
What? I was still trying to work out what it was you were trying to say.
Yeah,
double spend.
Like Nakamoto.
What? The double spend?
Double spend.
What, Nakamoto?
Yeah. Well, that's terrible, isn't it? See, it's old age, you see. I'm very old.
Never mind, we'll talk about Nakamura. What player he was.
Just so I don't get a bit background to what you were talking about a wee while back, just about the version 3.0 and the plans for that. And at the moment in version 2, as I understand it, there's 1 billion, and that's it. You can't create any more. Were you saying that the option was on the table for the creation of more coins?
Who knows?
Nothing has been ruled out and nothing has been absolutely ruled in.
So there is that, but so I mean, it's just that in terms of being an innately deflationary currency, and all blockchain currency being of that nature, because folk lose them or get locked out of accounts or lose addresses or lose the closing power. That would change the equation a wee bit if you were going to consider doing that.
Whatever the decision is at the end, it will always be to try and effect an essentially deflationary economy. Let's just say we're leaving some options open, right?
No, I just wanted to be clear on that.
And whatever options we leave open, existing holders will not feel disadvantaged.
Not only will they not feel disadvantaged, they will not be disadvantaged.
They will not be disadvantaged, and it will be to their advantage if we decide that there should be more than 1 billion in future. Right? But again, that's a decision that has to be taken. But luckily we are working with very flexible technology.
I'm getting the feeling I'm wandering into a sensitive area.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you had a Scotcoin that was worth $1, let's just say, and after whatever happens with V3, you have a Scotcoin V3 which is worth more than $1.
I'm not resisting your tempo. I'm just.
No. You would be happy with that. You would be happy with that. I suggest. Sorry. Yes.
Well, it's you're going to start mining again. And what is the purpose of the mining? Is it for transactions or is it for mining? Because if you've got your currency or Scotcoin or counterparty, are you going to move it? Are you going to?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, we'll go to a private blockchain. This is the nitty-gritty of what you're going to do with your Scotcoin if you start to mine. Are you going to mine for it, or is it the transactions?
No, there will be. This is our current thinking. Don't hold me to it.
No, I'm just interested. That's all.
The current thinking is there will be a fixed amount of new Scotcoin V3, whatever that number is, and the point is that they will be. The mining is there to guarantee the transactions. In other words, if you do a transaction, there has to be decentralized people around. Perhaps around the world, perhaps only in Scotland, we don't know, to actually certify that that's the transaction that's happened. Now, they have to be rewarded.
Yeah, really.
It's as simple as that. So at the moment, on the counterparty, they are rewarded with a little bit of Bitcoin. When they become onto Scotcoin V3, we will have to reward them in one way, shape or form, and we're looking to that to be a V3 as being what we're rewarding them. So yes, is the short answer, they will get something for it.
Yeah. But again, all of this will be taken into great account so that we don't suddenly skew it by suddenly we've got incredibly efficient miners that are creating Scotcoin at a rate faster than can be handled.
Well, no, they won't be creating Scotcoin because they'll only be certifying transactions.
To begin with, it's just certifying transactions.
Yes, but effectively they would be bringing into the usable money supply.
Sorry, I just had a bit of a flash when we were having the conversation before, and it goes round in circles. One of the things I see the advantage of Scotcoin, again, is until you get the take-up. Remember, Denmark and Finland are now heading towards a currency-less society, which means the bank knows your transactions on your credit card and on your bank statement. So if you have an alternative payment system, rather than just having that, slightly better than just having that, because then they know everything about your life. Whereas if you have an alternative, which again is just what Bitcoin is, but once each country starts to take on that philosophy and it's all getting shoved through Europe, we're going currency-less. That's what they want. It's the only way the banks can survive. An alternative is a valid way to go.
One of the more interesting things is the current takeover bid for World Pay, which is the big daddy of payment transfers. It's very interesting to me. You always find that behemoths are created immediately prior to their demise. And when I saw that World Pay was going to be fought over by various other people, I thought to myself, that's the thin end of the wedge.
The Kodak moment.
Kodak moment, precisely.
My question is, how is your billion Scotcoins currently distributed? Like, who has them, and how are they going to be distributed when it goes?
Okay, very carefully. How nice. Very simply, there are approximately, and I say approximately because there's one or two things, approximately between 3,500 and 4,000 holders of Scotcoin in wallets. I'm one of the big investors in Scotcoin. We have quite a lot, but we are giving them away. We're using them for example, doing things like this. We're using them for all sorts of different reasons. The short answer is how we subsequently give away Scotcoin. We've said, we give people some as these events and other things. Is again up for discussion. If you've got any brilliant ideas, let us know. I mean, one of the thoughts is that every small business should be given a small stock of Scotcoin to start. Could be one way of doing it, and it would be then in their interest to get more, obviously. Sorry, me again.
You're saying giving Scotcoin to businesses is a way to start, but
Well, no, it might be. I'm not saying it will be. I'm saying
well, yeah, but surely it's consumers who need it.
But the point is that the businesses have got a vested interest in getting it used. If we give you 1,000 Scotcoin, even 10,000 Scotcoin, you don't have an enormous incentive to get it used because you're not earning anything out of it. The offices and shops and whatever it is that are going to be hopefully using Scotcoin will have a vested interest in making sure it gets used. And they might use it. They might use it to give to people who come in and have a meal and say, okay, here's 1,000 Scotcoin. When you've got 10,000 Scotcoin, come back and we'll give you a free meal. Possibly. I don't know.
There's an awful lot of hard work in education and marketing that's going to have to be done around this. We're going to have to have an awful lot of bright ideas about how to get it out and use it. We've got some already. We're always going to be looking for more. Delighted to hear your suggestions. But at the end of the day, this man, several others can sit home and look at all their lovely zeros, right?
That's minus zeros.
Yeah. Far better to sit at home and look at a smaller number with not so many zeros on it, but each one of them is worth an awful lot more because it's going out and it's being used, and it's being used as a medium of exchange, as a store of value, and something that people can put some trust in. Because at the moment, the pound that we've got is in itself very volatile. If you would listen to some of the economists, whether it is a long-term future or not is debatable. Currency is going to change, and we want to be part of that change. We want to be part of an alternative.
I think that's going to be the last question because it's now 8:30. We'll still be around for a little bit, but let's kind of try and wrap it up.
Okay. So looking at driving adoption, how do you make it convenient to make your transaction? At the moment, if I walk into Tesco's, I've got a company tax card, I put it against the reader, it takes 2 seconds, I'm out the door.
Have you got a smartphone?
I do.
Do you know how to use a QR code?
Yes.
Can you take your phone and put it on a QR code?
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
NFC. Does it use NFC? Yeah.
That's another option.
We could use NFU, you know?
No, not NFU.
Yeah, sorry, not NFU, NFC.
You could use the NFU.
NFU. I actually tried to insure a car through NFU. Don't bother even trying.
Right, okay, we're going to wrap it up, but I'll come and talk to you in a minute. Can anyone who has not got a wallet and who would like some Scotcoin, come and see us. We'll take a note of your email address and we'll get it sorted out for you. All right? Okay. And thank you very much indeed. It's been a really interesting discussion tonight. It was quite often, the last one we did in Glasgow, the night was an appalling night. It was lashing rain and wind and everything, and 3 people turned up.
And not only that, they all agreed with us.
I know, that was terrible. That was terrible. Anyway, if you come up, if you'd like some, give me your email address and your name and we'll sort it out.